Hi, good morning. My name is Alex. So today I'll be presenting the Worker Task Management System. So over here, this is my splash screen. Initially, I have this load user credentials in the init state. I'll explain it later. So for the UI part, I wrap everything inside of container for decorations like gradient, and then I have an image inside of a children under a center. So below of the image, I have this text to welcome the user, and then I have a circular progress indicator. So for the load user credential part, is just a method to check whether or not data is inside of the storage. So over here, I use this shared preference method to get the data like email and password, and then the boolean result for the checkbox, and then store everything inside of a string. So if we have this if condition, if remember is true, that means if the checkbox is ticked, it will then execute this HTTP post request. So this post request will then execute this login script. So if it is successful, it will then print out this 200 response codes, and then create a user object over here using the JSON data, and then it will then push to the main screen. So over here, the main screen receive one parameter, which is the user. This is required. So over here I have one if else. So if the user email or password can't be found, or if it is incorrect, it will then just log in as this guest user. So you can see everything is 0, empty space. Again, it will then push to the main screen. So over here, this is another else statement for the checkbox. If the checkbox is not true, it will then again just execute this guest account. So this is the main screen. Again, the main screen over here require this user object. So inside of the scaffold, I have this app bar, text main screen, and then I have everything inside of a children. So this is just to display the user information, right? So over here, using user.userid, we can get the name, and we can get a user ID, and then so on. So we can get a username, user email by using the user object passed by the splash screen. So, and then I have this login button, elevated button. So if it is pressed, it will then route to the login screen. And then I have another log out button. So the same thing, if it is pressed, it will then just route to the exit the main screen. It will go to the login screen. So for the register user class, so over here we initialize our name controller email to get the information from the text box, from text field, and then inside of this app bar, again just a simple title, and then put everything inside of a container again for decorations, and then I have this everything inside of a children. So text like create your account. So it will ask for name, email, and password. So all of these have icons. Like you see icons person, icons email. So after the user has entered their information, they can then press this register button. You will then call this register user dialog. So this is just to initialize and store everything inside of a string, and this is just to check for the data clarity. So over here is to make sure all the fields are filled, and then the password is same as the confirm password. And then over here I added a password length checker. So the password must be at least 5 characters. And then it will go to this show dialog method. So it means a dialog box will appear, and if it is, you will have two options, OK or cancel. So if you press OK, then you will then call this register user method. So register user method, again just store everything of the inside of the text field into this string, and then call this request this HTTP from using register.php. So if it is successful, it will then show this message successfully registered, and then push to the login screen. So or else it will then just show fail to register. So for the login part, again initialize text editing controller to get the information, and then load the credentials. And so over here, again add bar, and then wrap everything inside of a container for gradient, and then I have also everything inside of children. So login is just two text, so two text fields. So first one is for the email, and then the second one is for the password. So, and then below that we have a remember me checkbox. So it will then if it is checked, it will then set state, means it will update the UI, and then it will get the email and password. And then if it is not empty, it will then if it is empty, it will then tell them to fill in the information. Then you will then call this store credentials by using the email password and the boolean result of the checkbox. And then over here we have an elevated button for login user. So if you press login user, it will then call the login user method, and it will then reroute to the register screen. So over here I have the login user method. Again, just store everything inside of the email and password. So if it is empty, it will then tell them to fill in all, and or if password is less than 5, it will then tell them to make sure it's more than 5, and then you will use a HTTP request using the same login PHP. So again, if it is successful, you will create user object over here, and then print the username inside of this debug console, and then show the message, and then also it will display the user object using the username. And then after all that is done, it will then push to the main screen, again passing the user object. Okay, and then we have this store credential. Just now earlier we called it call the method. So this store credential is to, again, it will then store password and email inside of a string, and then the value for the checkbox is stored inside a boolean. So then call the preference shared preference. If the value is checked, if the checkbox is ticked, it will then set the value inside of this variable, and then it will then show the scaffold message, always remembered. If the checkbox is not selected, that means it will then just remove the information type inside of the login box, and then it will clear the information by using email and password, and then it will set state to update the UI, and then again it will just show a text over here using a scaffold messenger. And then for load credentials, same thing like the splash screen, just create a preference method, and then wait to get the email and password from the storage. If it is not null, it will then set the text field using the information that retrieved from the storage. If it can't be found inside of the storage, it will then just clear the text field. So yeah, that's all for the